staying calm when someone disrespects you is the exact reason they keep doing it. And you don't even realize when it starts. Someone crosses a line, you stay calm, you say nothing. And in that moment, they don't see strength. They see no consequence. That's where you lose them. From that point on, they don't stop. They adjust, and it doesn't go back. They talk over you a little more, push a little further, try you again. Not because they hate you, but because you made it easy. And if you've ever felt people slowly get more comfortable disrespecting you, this is exactly what's happening. I'm going to show you the exact moment this shift starts. Why staying calm backfires in that moment, and what actually makes people stop. This isn't about losing control. It's not about shouting or reacting. It's about what people quietly conclude about you when you let things slide. Who they take seriously, who they test, who they don't worry about. And it all starts in a very specific moment. It's not obvious. It's not dramatic. It's small, and it happens right when you feel something is off, but decide not to address it. That moment, that's where respect starts dropping. Because the problem isn't that you're calm, it's what your calm is teaching them. And this is where it gets dangerous. Not obvious, not dramatic. Just something you were taught that sounds right, but plays out very differently in real situations. Stay calm, be mature, don't react. And on the surface, that looks like strength. But watch what actually happens over time. The first time someone crosses a line, you let it go. Nothing happens. The second time, they go a little further. Still nothing happens. By the third time, they're not testing you anymore. They've already figured you out. That's the shift. Not in what they do, but in what they believe about you. Because people don't repeat what gets corrected. They repeat what gets tolerated. And once something is tolerated, it becomes expected. That's how respect drops. Quietly, gradually, then all at once. Now, this is where most people misunderstand Stoicism. You've probably heard this before. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. The idea is, if someone controls your reaction, they control you. And that's true. But here's what people get wrong. They think not reacting means they're in control. It doesn't, not if nothing changes, because control isn't just what you feel. It's what people experience when they deal with you. And if your calm doesn't come with boundaries, it doesn't look like strength. It looks like permission. Permission to interrupt you, permission to dismiss you, permission to try you again. And once people feel that permission, they don't question it. They build on it. That's why this keeps happening to you. Not because you're weak, but because what you're doing is being interpreted the wrong way. And if you don't catch it early, it compounds. That's how far it goes. And most people never trace it back to that first moment they stayed silent. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And more importantly, you can stop it from repeating. If you want to understand how to stay in control without quietly losing respect in the process, then stick with me, because this is where most people get it wrong and where everything starts to shift. Here's how this actually plays out in real time, not in big moments, in the ones you barely register. You say something and it gets acknowledged, but not engaged with, not ignored, just skipped over, like it didn't carry weight. You notice it, but you let it go, because it's small. Next time, you're halfway through a point, and someone redirects the conversation without even checking if you were done. Still not blatant, but now something's different. You're not being interrupted. You're being bypassed. And that distinction matters. Because interruption can be rude, but bypassing you, that means your input isn't being factored in at all. That's a higher level of dismissal, and it doesn't happen randomly. It builds from moments where nothing pushed back. Now here's the part people miss completely. People don't decide your boundaries. They discover them, quietly, over time. And every time something crosses a line, and nothing adjusts after, that discovery gets confirmed, not consciously, but consistently. That's the mechanism. Not they don't respect you. They've learned how far they can go with you. And once that's learned, they stop checking. That's when behavior changes. Not because they got worse, but because the limit became clear. Ralph Waldo Emerson explained this, not in a motivational way, but in a very uncomfortable one. Circumstance does not make the man. It reveals him. In other words, moments like this don't create behavior. They expose what's already understood about you. What gets challenged, what gets ignored, what carries weight. And once something is understood that way, it becomes default. That's the invisible shift. You don't feel it when it happens. You feel it later. When you realize people are treating you differently, and you can't point to a single moment it changed. That's because it didn't change once. It stacked. And if you're honest, you can trace it back. Not to something big, but to something you decided wasn't worth addressing. So think about it. Not generally. Specifically. The last time something felt slightly off, and you let it pass. What happened after that? Did it stop there? Or did it come back? Just a little more direct? Drop a number in the comments. How many times you've seen that pattern repeat? Because most people won't say it out loud, but that number tells you exactly how long this has been happening. And here's where most people make it worse. Not by reacting, by trying to handle it the right way. It's not silence. It's over-explaining. That moment where something feels off, and instead of addressing it directly, you start clarifying yourself. You add context. You soften your tone. You make sure they understand what you meant. Sounds reasonable. But watch what it does. The focus shifts from what they did to how you're coming across. Now you're adjusting, not them. And that changes the position completely. Because the moment you start explaining yourself during disrespect, you're no longer setting the frame. You're responding inside theirs. And that's a losing position. Not obvious, but it shows up in small ways. You finish your point, then immediately add, I'm not saying it's a big deal, but... Or you pause, then rephrase what you just said so it lands better. Or you start giving background for something that didn't need defending in the first place. And in doing that, you signal something very specific, that your position needs approval, that it needs to be accepted before it holds weight. And once that signal is there, the dynamic shifts. You're not equal in that interaction anymore. You're negotiating your place in it. The moment you explain too much, you drop your position instantly. Not because you said something wrong, but because you showed you're willing to adjust just to be received better. And people pick up on that fast. They don't argue it. They just respond differently. Less carefully, less respectfully, less aware of how they come across to you. Because now, you've shown you'll do the adjusting. That's why this one is dangerous. It feels like maturity, but it comes across as uncertainty. And uncertainty gets leaned on, not respected. And this is where it stops being about behavior and starts being about position. Respect isn't built on words, it's built on perceived leverage, not who talks better, who needs the interaction to go well more. You can feel it in subtle moments. One person sends a message, then checks if it was received properly. The other reads it and replies hours later like nothing's off. No explanation, no adjustment. That difference, that's leverage. Because the one thinking about the interaction more is already more invested in it. And the more invested you are, the more you start managing how you're perceived. What you say, how you say it, when you say it, while the other person just shows up as they are. No calculation, no effort to maintain balance. That's not confidence, that's position. And it shows up in 3 ways. Who reacts first? Who explains more? Who tolerates what? The one who tolerates more loses more. Not in one moment. In accumulated ground. You give a little space, then a little more. Until you're no longer holding your position, you're adjusting to theirs. There's a Stoic idea from Epictetus that cuts through this cleanly. If you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize you've compromised your integrity. The moment you start adjusting just to be received better, you've already shifted the balance. Not because they took anything from you, but because you gave something up. That's the confusion most people have. They think being calm means accepting everything. It doesn't. Stoicism was never about becoming passive. It's about controlling yourself without giving away your position. Emotional control doesn't mean behavioral tolerance. You can stay completely composed and still not allow certain things to stand. The one who tolerates more loses more. If that hits you, you already know why this matters. Send this to someone who needs to hear it. Because most people don't even realize they've been trading this away in small moments for a long time. So what should you do instead? You don't fix this by saying more. You fix it by changing what happens next. The moment something crosses a line, you don't process it. You don't soften it. You address it. Directly. Not aggressively. Not emotionally. Just clearly. And most people struggle with this part because they wait too long. They feel it, think about it, then try to respond after the moment has passed. That never works, because timing is the whole signal. If the correction doesn't happen in the moment, it doesn't land the same. It feels optional. So the shift is simple. You respond while it's happening. Not later. Right there. Someone cuts across you mid-sentence. You don't adjust. You don't restart. You don't wait for space. You stop it. Hold on, I wasn't done. And you continue. That's it. No extra explanation. No change in tone. No effort to make it sound nice. Just a reset. And here's where most people hesitate. Not because they don't know what to say, but because they're thinking about how it will be received. That hesitation is the problem. Because the moment you start managing their reaction, you've already stepped out of position. So instead, you stay with the action. Short, clear, done. And then you move on like nothing unusual happened. That part matters more than people think, because it shows this wasn't emotional. It was standard. Now here's a situation most people miss completely. You're in a group. Something gets said that slightly undercuts you, not enough to call out loudly, but enough to shift how others see you. Most people let that pass, or they laugh it off. What you do instead, you don't match the tone. You don't joke back. You just say, "What do you mean by that?" And you hold it there. No smile, no pressure, just space. That moment forces clarity. And clarity resets the interaction, without you needing to explain anything. That's the difference. You're not trying to win the moment. You're controlling what gets accepted in it. That's where the shift happens. Calm isn't the problem. Uncorrected calm is. Once you understand that, you stop trying to handle situations and start shaping them while they're happening. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think this is about handling situations better. It's not. It's about who you are inside those situations. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. Clear enough that certain things just don't move forward around you. Because people don't respect calm. They respect controlled standards. That's what they adjust to. Not your words. The line they can feel, even when you don't say much. And this is where the split happens. Calm with boundaries holds shape. Calm without them gets shaped. Same tone, different outcome. One stays intact. The other gets slowly redefined by the people around it. That's why this isn't obvious. On the surface, both look the same. No reaction, no tension, no scene. But underneath, one is deciding what stands. The other is adjusting to what happens. And people can feel that difference early. Not logically. Instinctively. The difference is invisible, but everyone feels it. And once that's established, you're not trying to manage interactions anymore. You're setting the terms they happen on. Quietly. Consistently. Without needing to prove anything. And now you can see it clearly. That moment where calm turns into weakness. It's not when you stay composed. It's not when you hold your emotions. It's earlier than that. It's the moment you feel something shift and decide not to address it. Right there. Not later. Not after you've thought about it. In that exact second. That's where everything changes. Because that's the moment the signal gets sent. Not about what you felt, but about what you allowed. And once that signal is clear, the pattern doesn't need to be tested anymore. It just continues. That's the shift. So if someone disrespects you, your reaction teaches them who you are. Not your words. Not your intentions. Your response. There's a reason this has been said for centuries. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. In other words, stop trying to understand it perfectly and start applying it in real time. Because this isn't about knowing what's right. It's about what you do when the moment actually shows up. And the one who tolerates everything eventually gets valued as nothing. Now, if you've started noticing this pattern in your own life, then the next thing you need to understand is why people don't just cross the line. They start pulling away completely. I broke that down in the video on your screen. Watch that next. And if you're serious about changing this, you already know what to do.